Hey guys, the name is Kris Barocsi. Welcome to Gear Corner. Today, I want to find out if the current Boss SD-1 and OD-1X overdrive can give you the vibe and the tone of the OG, the original, old, made in Japan OD-1 overdrive. Did Boss make a mistake by discontinuing the OD-1? Let's find it out. Make sure to like the video and hit subscribe if you enjoyed this one, and also don't forget to check out the description box below. It's packed full with useful stuff such as signal chain, timestamps, and gear links. The circuits of these three pedals are not the same, so don't expect clones here at all. Still, if Boss discontinues such a legendary pedal as the OD-1, I kinda expect them to make the successors advanced, fine-tuned, and still give me that original OD-1 vibe. Let's see if that's the case. You might wonder why I have the SD-1 here instead of the, OD-3, which, according to its name, should be the actual successor. Well, it's not. The circuit of the OD-1 and the OD-3 is very different, and they do sound also way different. Let's do a first comparison round. I'll let all three pedals sound the way they want to. And by that, I mean that I avoid extreme settings, and I'll set most of the knobs to around 12 o'clock. First, here's my clean tone, and then you'll hear the three pedals in isolation. And now here's the same recording in a band mix with drums and bass. Before I react to what I just heard, let's move on to the second round. This time, I'll try to get that OD-1 tone with the SD-1 and the OD-1X. super short history of the Boss overdrive pedal, starting with the OD-1. In 1977, Boss came out with the original OD-1, and there were a couple of versions, a couple of editions basically. The first one is the Holy Grail. That's the most collectible version of the OD-1, and that's the one with the silver screw and the 14 pin or 14 connector op amp chip, the RC3403D. Yeah, apparently that chip and the OD-1s with that chip will sound best. I don't know, I never heard one. Maybe. As far as I know, all of the OD-1s were made in Japan. Even though they moved factories in 1986 to Taiwan, and they started printing made in Taiwan on the board a year earlier, I guess. That's where they stopped producing the OD-1. But still, as far as I can tell, all of the OD-1 units were being produced in the Japanese factory. They stopped producing the OD-1 in '85. My OD-1 is not the earliest version. It has the C4558C chip, and it was built in Japan in December 1980. In 1981, the SD-1 arrived. It was the advanced version of the OD-1 with the tone knob. And even though the circuits are similar, the OD-1 and the SD-1, it just feels very different to play these two pedals. More about the tone in a sec. The SD-1 was produced in Japan for the first few years, and then Boss moved the production to Taiwan in 1986. In 2014, Boss announced the OD-1X, which is a digital overdrive. It's a digital pedal that emulates an analog overdrive. It's a very different technology, and it does sound very different too. To be honest, I'm really surprised they call it the OD-1X. It doesn't really have a lot in common with the OD-1 or the SD-1. It doesn't have that mid-hump. It has way more bass and treble and sounds way more like an amp than the OD-1. My impressions, the OD-1 has a spongy sweetness, not a lot of lows and definitely not a lot of high end, but it has a very interesting mid-range, which the other two pedals just cannot reproduce. The SD-1 is a very nice sounding overdrive. It's just very pleasant to listen to it. It has more lows and highs, so a wider frequency range than the OD-1. Unlike with the original OD-1, I kind of hear the overdrive of the SD-1 as a layer above the clean tone of the guitar, which reminds me of a Tube Screamer. It's not a big surprise. They are not that far from each other, and it's definitely interesting. The OD-1X it's just a different animal. It doesn't sound anything like the original OD-1, so as told, I don't really get the name. It has crazy amount of bass and treble reserves, which is very nice, and it sort of sounds like an amp overdrive. On low gain settings, it just sounds a little too polished, like too pretty, if you know what I mean. You don't have that natural sort of soft hairiness and fizziness of an overdrive, like an analog overdrive. So that sounds a bit digital to me. But that being said, the decay of the note is perfect. Nothing tells you that it's a digital emulation. So, did Boss make a mistake by discontinuing the original OD-1? Yes and no. Yes, because the successors cannot give you that vibe and tone of the original OD-1. So if you want that tone, you have to go out and buy an old pedal instead of buying a new Boss pedal. And no, because I assume it's really hard or maybe even impossible to get that original 14-pin chip the OD-1 had, especially in the quantity Boss would need it for mass production. Also, the OD-1 is a legendary pedal at this point, and if they don't make it anymore, the hype around it will just keep on growing. And that slowly but surely lifts up Boss in a very elite club. I'm talking about the club of legendary pedals such as the original Range Master, the Fuzz Face, the Clone, etc. And that's not bad for a brand's reputation, is it? Let me know what you think about this comparison and which was your favorite tone in this video. See you again next Thursday and meet you down there in the comment section. I'll be back. Bye bye.